You're listening to Olivia's Book Club, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Olivia's Book Club. And I'm still your host, Olivia Fierro. And it is a new year, but it is the same old me. And I am having major tech trauma and feeling whiny and very sensitive to, I don't know, the universe and the solar system. So to have a little help navigating a new year and maybe a new world or a new me and you and all of us, and also talk a little bit about books. I am so excited to introduce you to our special guest, Valerie Tejeda, who is an author of, Self-Care by the Signs, Self-Care by the Moon, and the novel Good on Paper. You're also the founder of Big Cosmic Energy, a journalist and an astrologer. I can't count that high of how many hyphenates we've got going. So Valerie, super excited to speak with you. Please help me get through Mercury retrograde or whatever leap is going on right now.
I know the tech issues are no joke. They are no joke.
How in the world did you, give me a little background at the beginning, because I am so enamored with people who manage to have these very creative combinations of full careers that all collide and allow their passions and interests and strengths to intersect in such a unique way. And I'm sure we would be hard pressed to find somebody who is intersecting on all of these spheres like you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's other people doing the same thing. But, it's funny. I started in journalism. That's where I got my start with writing. And I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved talking to people, interviewing people, and just writing. It's always something I've loved to do. And after doing journalism for a while, I actually started writing fiction first, was what I first started doing, and loved it. I love writing fiction. And then there came a point where I was like, this astrology passion of mine, I kind of want to dig deeper into it. And I never knew, because being an astrologer, it's a bit vague. There's not like, I do have a certification in it, but it's not like being a psychologist where you have to go to school and check off all these boxes. So I thought, how can I do this like the right way, where I'm like properly educated and helping people and everything? So I ended up doing more research, getting certifications, doing like internships and training. And I just loved it so much. My obsession with learning what helps make people tick just flourished in astrology, because I got to do that with journalism and writing, but astrology, it was like taking it to the next level. And then naturally I had to write about it. Once I got into astrology, I'm like, well, I have to write books on it now because I'm obsessed. So it's been such an interesting journey, but I really love balancing the nonfiction astrology, self-care stuff and the fiction. It's really fun.
So, okay, let me backtrack, because you started out writing fiction, and that was this was a YA genre, right?
Yeah, I had one YA book in 2015, so it feels like ages ago now. Time goes so fast.
Did that combine was there some mysticism in that? And
yes, it was about witches and magic and all that. So I got to kind of combine it a little bit, which was fun.
Let's fast forward to, so recently you just published Good on Paper. And that story, tell us a little bit about that story.
So I always grew up wanting to see a rom-com where the main character chooses herself, but still is able to find love. And I also really wanted a diverse rom-com, because I just didn't see any of that as a kid. And so that's basically what Good on Paper was. It was me almost writing this book where the main character is finding herself and finding love, and then also the diversity that I wanted to see in a rom-com like that. So that's really why I wrote that book. It was more what I wanted to see as a kid, a different kind of rom-com, really. It's not that it doesn't follow the typical rom-com, format, because it really is about the main character learning to love herself. But yeah, I love that book. It was so fun to write. It was enjoyable.
And that main character is a little bit inspired by Valerie, or no?
No, I mean, she's a journalist, but I mean, it's funny. Some of my friends are like, she has traits of you, but I'm like, I don't see it. I think she's so different from me, but who knows?
Little
So
pieces
funny.
of people you meet and little pieces of
Yeah,
ourselves
of
go
course.
everywhere with us,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I was just kind of scrolling through Audible, and I came upon Self-Care by the Signs, and I'll backtrack and say there was my two best friends post college when we lived in an apartment. Our ritual was we'd go out in Los Angeles, we'd meet some boy or something, we'd make sure that we would remind each other, find out the birthday, and then
Yeah.
we would come back to our place and eat and whatever, and look up in our astrology book our birth date with this, with this
I
birth date.
love that.
I mean, this was at 2 o'clock in the morning, like this was just so many hours of entertainment for us, and we just were always hanging on it. So I just have always had an affinity for it, and I think it is so interesting to lend perspective to how some people are just so different, or where we feel like we're speaking a different language, or we are more sensitive during certain times and others don't feel it. So give the basics for somebody who has been kind of a skeptic to astrology. What do they have to gain from, say, for example, listening to Self-Care by the Signs, which was so quick, so entertaining, and so simple and helpful to digest, by the way?
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. I loved working on that project. It was such a passion project of mine. So I love hearing when people enjoyed it. Well, I always say that astrology is really a tool to help us get to know ourselves and other people better. I think a lot of people are skeptical because they think that astrology puts you in a box and that it defines you, but that's not what it is at all. It's more like a map. You can look at your birth chart and see, do I resonate with these archetypes? And if so, how can that help my life? It's very much a great tool for self-discovery. And when you start to really dive into it, it's just unbelievable, I think, really how much it can help you just really love yourself better, because you can see these things about you and it's like, oh yeah, I do resonate with that. And it really can make you feel empowered, but it's not at all about defining you or controlling you. And I think that that's where things get a little, lost in translation, because I think people, or I have at least found that people think that, oh, I don't like astrology because if you say I'm a Taurus, then I have to be this way. And it's like, no, does that resonate with you? Then great, then it can help you embrace that side of yourself and then become more empowered. So I love that about astrology, and getting even more deeper into it and getting in tune with the astrological seasons is really where I think it just helps for presentness and mindfulness, and it's lovely. And connecting with the lunar cycle and all that too adds a beautiful layer again of that presentness and mindfulness, and just slowing down with the seasons, and stuff like that, which is always nice because we're all so busy all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think for those people who would say, oh, I'm a searcher, I'm, always trying to kind of figure out why am I this way, or why are they that way, or whatever, or have an awareness. I mean, even things that are as simple as why does one person get bronchitis all the time and one person always gets, a migraine or whatever? Yeah. That it could be one more piece of a puzzle, a little background, just like your family history, but it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily be exactly like your family, right?
Exactly. And it really helps for inspiration and motivation too. I have found, you can look at your chart and see things that you might naturally enjoy, maybe things that you wouldn't have thought of. Like you being a Gemini, I'm not surprised at all that you are a reporter and on a morning show and love books and everything that you do, and are so well-spoken. It's just big Gemini energy for sure. But yeah, there's so much even to just beyond the sun sign. If you do, have you done your birth chart before?
So well, it's very funny because I recently just was on an app and I put my birth date in and my time. And I remember myself being, because also this was this little imprinted time when I was living with these two friends. One was a Libra, one's a Virgo, and I'm the Gemini. And so my identity at that moment was that I was a Gemini with a Virgo moon and a Libra rising. And I was like, no wonder, look at the three of us, it's meant to be. And then I just did it on something else. And apparently I was a Gemini and Virgo.
Oh, really? Interesting. So I wonder if maybe you didn't have the correct birth time before.
Maybe.
That's interesting. You know, sometimes, well, I was going to say sometimes it could depend on what system they're using for the house
Yeah.
system, but not that it should give you the same if you had the same time. But do you
Yeah.
resonate with the Virgo energy?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you know what? I mean, I am a crazy disaster oftentimes. So I think maybe if I didn't have that, who knows how off the rails things would be.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because you have Gemini and all this Virgo energy, and they're both ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of communication, which again shows you're a big communicator, you know, and that's funny because of what you do for a living.
And also the fact that when Mercury is in retrograde, I mean, everything goes wrong for me. And I'm amazed when I'll meet people and be like, wait, you don't realize that Mercury is in or you've never heard of this, or you don't suffer from all of these things happening to you like I do. What is that about? So would you give a little explanation of what most of us will say, okay, I know what my sign is, but what the differences are between your sun, your moon, and your rising?
Okay, well, I actually like to use a bookish birth chart analogy to kind of explain those three things because I think it helps people get a better handle on it. So if you think of like a book, the sun sign in your chart, in your birth chart, is the main character, just like we have a main character in a book. So it's how you shine, it gets all the attention. It's the main character of your astrological story. Your moon sign is your inner self. It's your emotions, what you need to feel safe. And that's kind of like in a book, the world that the story is set in. So that's how you would compare the moon sign. The rising sign is like the cover of a book. It's like the first energy you're going to see, that kind of vibe. And the rising sign also sets the tone for the chart ruler, which is an important piece in the chart. And that would be like a book genre. So kind of like, again, that kind of vibe of the energy of your chart. But the main character, the sun sign, is still the most important. I think people get also worried when they do the birth chart. They're like, does my sun sign not matter anymore? And I'm like, no, it's still like a huge piece of your birth chart. It's your main character. But yes, all these other placements, they're just great pieces to that story of yours and other ways that you can see if you resonate with that energy and learn more about yourself. And it's really fun the more you dive into it.
That really is a fantastic way to explain it. I love that very much. And I just think that this is the time of year when people are ready to explore new stuff. So I thought it was just such an ideal time for this conversation. And also in relation to your book, Self-Care by the Moon, I mean, we really do hear people more frequently, I think, talking about, oh, you know, getting your full moon water, you know, charging your water, doing all of this stuff. So can you give kind of, you know, another simple, understandable example of how we are impacted by these cycles and, you know, how we can maybe learn to make it benefit us or at least not fight against it also?
Yeah, well, I mean, our ancestors literally lived by the lunar cycles. That was their calendar. So we evolved with the moon. We evolved being connected to it. And the two big, like, energetic times in the moon, in the lunar cycle, is the new moon and the full moon. The new moon is like that new beginning in nature. So it's like a mini new year every month when the new moon happens. And the full moon is like a time for celebration and release because it's a big energy day. We actually have a full moon happening tomorrow. And that's a great day to like celebrate how far you've come, or if there's something that's kind of bugging you, like you could do a ritual to release that energy. And it's just a good time to, you know, let it wash away with the moonlight, you know, basically. But yeah, those are two big days. There's also, I mean, there's the whole lunar cycle. There's the waxing crescent and all those days where you could do different rituals. But a lot of people resonate a lot with the new and full moons. But the biggest thing is we're just so connected to it. I think people don't, again, often realize that, like, it can affect your sleep leading up to a full moon. And there's scientific research that even confirms that. And we evolved with it, you know, we evolved being very connected to it. And when you connect to that, to the lunar cycle, it just, again, is very grounding. You know, at least that's what I have found, is when I'm kind of in tune with what's going on in the cycles of nature, I just feel way more grounded and present and calm. And And since life is so busy, it's such a great anchor for me, if that makes sense.
Well, so we've mentioned life is busy, and so you're looking for tools to kind of have some stability or consistency or centering that's beyond our own chaotic little monkey minds, right?
Yeah.
So are there rules that you follow, say, for example? I mean, is there something that you will or will not do during a certain time of the lunar cycle because it just, that the energy is not there, or it's not beneficial for your health or your wellness or success at X, Y, or Z?
There are a lot of astrologers that do follow those sorts of rules, but I have to say I am more flexible because I believe that we are in control of our lives. I always say, like, the stars are here to inspire our lives, but they're not in control of our lives. We're the main characters of our story. So yes, I like to set my intentions on the new moon because of the energy that's in the sky. But let's say I miss that date, I'm still going to do it like another day. I'm not going to be like, oh no, I can't do this. But yeah, there's definitely days that are good to connect with certain energies, but we also have the freedom to do, whatever we want, of course. I know some people won't do certain things on eclipses, but I'll still do them if I'm feeling drawn to do it, and I just think you have to kind of feel it out and go with what's best for you and not live in fear about it. Because you can get superstitious with it if you let yourself. So I more believe that just, you got to do what's best for you.
How do you, I thought it was really, what I enjoyed so much about self-care by the signs as well. I sort of thought, I don't know, maybe this is a self-centered Gemini quality, but I sort of thought, I'm going to listen to what's about me. And then that's all I'll listen to. Yeah. And it was really what was all of the other signs, like hearing, okay, of course I know, so-and-so. My friend, my husband, my sister, whatever. And I felt like it was a real walkthrough of kind of taking a beat and looking at the people in your life in a gentle way that was taking care of them. I'm thinking about what they need. And I thought that it was extremely helpful.
Oh, great. Yeah, I really wanted to make it that everyone could listen to it, regardless of your sign. And there's always like lessons and inspiration we can get from each sign. And so that was what I was trying to do with it. I have a book that I actually announced today coming out called Cosmic Care. And I'm going to be I'm writing it right now. It's going to be publishing with Hay House. And I'm going to be doing the same kind of thing where you can look at your sign, but you can look at all of them and learn something. And I love that because I've had a lot of people say that they enjoyed that. They didn't just listen to their sign. They found all of them interesting and helpful. And I like that a lot. I'm glad you found that too.
Well, I'm excited. I'll be looking forward to Cosmic Care. And for those who are listening, when you listen to this, you'll see that she's kind of also giving you like a little nugget of there's kind of inspiration that, from each of these signs. And also it'll resonate much more when you realize, somebody in your life is this person also. Yeah. So I enjoyed that very much. Will you tell me a little bit about how with your fiction writing, with balancing this life of yours, because I assume that you also do readings and you've got a beautiful business going on with the astrology. So how do you approach this sitting down to write? And I guess this should all be framed under what is your sign? And so are you a structured person under all of this? You've got a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio, but I don't consider myself to be a naturally structured person. I've kind of had with the books and the astrology things, once things got a little more busy, I had to become more structured. I often was, or for so long, I was more a fly by the seat of your pants type person with writing, and it worked well for me. Like I was able to kind of do that and be okay. But this last about 6 months with these different deadlines, I've had to be more structured. And so I write better in the evening. So I put time aside for that. And then earlier in my day, I do more of the astrology things and the emails and all those things I have to do, and then write when the sun goes down. And so that's been working so far. And I've been balancing the fiction and nonfiction, which can get tricky sometimes. Like I have to switch my mindset. I'm like, wait a minute, I can't talk. Like the other day I was writing something that I think I was supposed to say Gatorade or something. And I put retrograde and I was like, no, that's not supposed to be there in the fiction. That's not how it's supposed to go.
That's so funny. So you're announcing, first of all, and congratulations. So
Oh,
already
thank you
looking
so much.
ahead to, to another deal and another project and a book. What are your expectations and what can we take away or think about as we're approaching this new year? Like, is there something on tap 2023 that, looks to be a year of, is it more change, more constancy, more, it's not the 2020 again, is it?
No, no. No, 2023, I feel like is a very good energy year. There's a lot of good energy in the air. Pluto is moving into Aquarius this year, which is good for like technology. A lot of astrologers, myself included, believe we'll see huge leaps in technology and fun things like that happening, which makes sense because we're seeing all this AI stuff, emerge and all that. Jupiter will be moving into Taurus, which is a great placement happening too. Whenever Jupiter is like a lucky planet, so looking where that moves is important, and seeing where that is in your chart is a good little thing to do for 2023. But yeah, there's a lot of, I see a lot of good energy things happening this year. It seems like a positive year, in my opinion, and we should all think that anyway. Go in thinking it's going to be a positive year, but no, it is. I think it's going to be a good year for everyone.
Oh, that's good to hear. I mean, we want all of the, positive reinforcement.
Yeah, we got to think it, put it out there in the universe anyway, right?
Exactly. Say it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Do you feel, so with your expertise, when you meet somebody, are you usually pretty able to guess what their sign would be?
For the most part, I usually can guess. If it's not the sun sign, it's often something like the moon or rising. Like I've had situations where I said, "Oh, are you a Sagittarius?" And they'll be like, "No," but then they have a Sagittarius rising, or something. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten pretty good at it. Of course, sometimes I'm wrong, but I would have guessed you were a Gemini.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not surprised you have the Virgo energy either. That makes sense to me. Yeah. A lot of Mercury. You got a lot of Mercury.
Yeah. Mercury, and why is Mercury so troublesome? What is the why is retrograde so difficult?
Well, I think with Mercury in particular, it's one of those retrogrades because, many believe it affects communication and things like that. I think that's why people notice it more, but the planet's retrograde all the time, all the ones, but the Mercury one, I think, is one more people notice and see, if that makes sense. But you would feel it a lot with your chart.
Right. So it's not in my imagination.
No, no, it's all the Mercury in your chart, because Mercury is the ruler of your chart if you have a Virgo rising. So you have lots of Mercury going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that it's coming together here. It's coming together.
And it makes sense. You love books too.
Yes.
You're a big book person. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get out of my head and go in other people's lives. I have to. It's mandatory. If you had advice for somebody who is interested in pursuing writing, and I mean, you have been able to explore and create and share and communicate in fiction and in nonfiction in a space that is meaningful to you, that you truly believe that can help better people's lives, and also to take them away with storytelling. What would you say is the key to either tapping into the confidence to allow yourself to start writing, or to, find maybe a story that is worth telling? What would you say the best way to get going is? Because that can be a scary challenge.
Yeah, it can be. I think with writing, it's something where you just have to do it. It's such an industry about persistence. So much is about luck and timing. You can have an incredible project and it can take a long time to get noticed, or it could get noticed quickly. It's such like a roll of the dice. And so I think at the end of the day, the persistence in writing and publishing really is the thing that is going to help you in the end, because you just have to keep going with it and just keep working at it. But anyone can do it. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm not a talented writer, or I'm not naturally a storyteller, but it's definitely something that can be learned if you just keep working at it and stay persistent with it, and it definitely can happen. Yeah.
Wearing your astrology hat, do you have people in your life constantly asking you like, hey, I'm deciding if I want to do this, should I do that? Or, oh, I met somebody and I'm going out on a date, and like, real quick tip. Is that a constant for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't mind. I love it. I have friends text me like the birthdays of someone they're just starting dating, or they'll ask me about a job and like, well, do you know what's going on in my chart here? And I'm like, oh, I'll pull it up. Let me look, because I'll have it on my phone. But yeah, I get asked it all the time. It goes with the job, of course.
It's got to,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to know that you're an expert in something, because many of us are like, know a little bit about a lot of things and a lot about nothing.
Yeah.
So you've got that. You've got that.
Oh, gosh.
And speaking of books and reading, would you tell me, I assume that you fell in love with books at an early age, and with reading and escaping. And what was your relationship with books prior to writing?
I always loved reading. I've definitely been that person. When I was younger, I read more nonfiction, believe it or not. I was really into biographies. I loved reading about people doing amazing things. And, any biography I could get my hand on, I would love it, especially like people in pop culture. I don't know. I think my obsession with learning what makes people tick made me love biographies. And then, of course, fiction and stuff I read as well. But I was always trying to get my hands on even magazines, just to read interviews and learn about people. And yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood reading even magazine articles. Do you remember when magazine articles used to be incredibly extensive? Like sometimes there'd be pages and pages of these like deep interviews. I loved that. I loved those days with like the deep insights into interviews. But yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood reading for sure. I loved it. It was such a great escape.
Do you, when you meet people, or in your own personal relationships, like when you're building deep relationships or with your family, or do you feel that you get a lot of support or I guess tools from your work in astrology to sort of help make either weather a storm with somebody, or to, I guess most importantly, maybe create a deeper bond?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I think astrology is just such a great tool to try and understand someone, because even if, let's say, it's something like, oh, this in your chart means you might feel emotional about this, or you might be someone who needs to hide away when you're feeling this way. And maybe they don't know that. And if you can ask, does that resonate with you? Then, if this person's stressed, they're going to kind of avoid, and go away. And then I can do my best to show them love. It definitely has helped me just understand people better. I have found that for sure, 100%. And everyone I know that's gotten into it has usually said the same thing, especially with themselves. I've been able to learn things about myself a lot, like, oh, when I'm upset, I might do XYZ, where it would say that in my chart, but I maybe didn't even realize it till I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, I do that. Now I can see that. And so it's really interesting. It definitely helps you understand the people around you, for sure.
That. So give me a little outline of what the structure of this next book will be.
So it's called Cosmic Care. And what it's going to be is we're going to explore the energy of the astrological seasons. So we'll go through the whole solar cycle. And then it's also going to go through the lunar cycle. And then in addition, we're going to go through the birth chart to help you understand how to make the most out of the energy of your birth chart. And there's going to be rituals and tarot spreads and all sorts of things to help you just connect more to yourself and the energy around you, and best crystals for the signs and all sorts of things. And then I'm also going to have an astrology deck with a guidebook that will be coming out as well. That doesn't have a title yet. But that I'm very excited about too, because we'll do spreads for that, and there'll be a self-care book to go along with it. So it's really exciting.
Wow. This is going to be a great couple of years for you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's so fun.
My very, very last thing, I brought this up with my husband earlier. I wonder if dogs' personalities are also shaped or impacted at all by their astrological sign, or pets in general. Is this a human thing only, or an animal thing as well?
Oh, I think it's definitely an animal thing. I have a Labradoodle named Dulce, and I know her whole chart. Yeah. And she's a Scorpio with a Pisces moon.
She's a Scorpio and you're a Scorpio.
Yeah, I know. Her birthday's a week before mine, which is so weird. And she has a Pisces moon, a Libra rising, and I've looked at her whole chart, and I swear I see it. I swear. Yeah. I mean, maybe people would be like, really? But I feel like I definitely see those energies in her little personality. So I'm into doing pets charts. I don't do that like professionally, but I have like done that for my friends, and it's fun.
We have a golden doodle named Prince.
And how fun.
He's a Cancer. He's July 10th. And so my husband said, oh, he's a Cancer like me because he's July 3rd. And he goes, of course, no wonder he's so loving and sensitive.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But also he's a doodle, so he's just so sweet.
I know. I love the doodles. They're so sweet. How fun. You have a doodle too. I love that.
Yes, they're amazing.
Okay. Yeah, they really are.
Valerie, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I just love all of the things that you're doing. If you could give one little bit of advice to the general populace about moving into the year, or if they say, okay, I want to learn one more little element about myself based on astrology, what's maybe the one area of their life, or one little thing you could look at that you think would be helpful?
I would say to do your birth chart if you haven't, so you could get all those pieces. And if you are looking at your birth chart, I would say to look at what your birth chart ruler is, the planet that is your birth chart ruler, and the sign that is in that planet. So for example, my chart ruler is Venus in Sagittarius, and yours will be Mercury. Whatever your Mercury sign is, will be your chart ruler. And that energy is just a good one, a good energy that's kind of, again, your genre in your life, and one that you can really connect to. And I think that would be, if I could tell anyone to do one thing with their birth chart, I would say, look at that placement and see if it resonates with you, see if it empowers you, get familiar with it. And then also I wanted to add that the card that I pulled for the year is the Empress card. So I feel like that's for everybody, a good energy. It's like abundance and prosperity and just nurturing ourselves and self-care. And so that's kind of the theme that we could all focus on this year, just embracing our power.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, Valerie, so people can contact you through your website, and you do online readings and...
Yeah, I do one-on-one readings through private practice, and I'm also on the Sanctuary app doing readings. That I'm on off and on when I'm not writing. So if someone wants an appointment that's like specific and not random, it's better to make one just through my website. But I am on there as well. And then always you can find me, on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok, too, and all those places.
She's on all the things. And of course, and if you haven't listened to these Audible originals too, you absolutely must. And again, the most recent novel is good on paper, and we'll be looking for your next Cosmic Care, right?
Yeah.
Cosmic Care or Cosmic Care?
Cosmic Care. Yeah.
Cosmic Care. Got it. Happy New Year to you, and thank you so much.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much. It's been so lovely to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to Olivia's Book Club, the podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Fierro. Our producer is Margaret Stewart. You can send us an email with your thoughts or your book recommendations. Olivia's Book Club at azfamily.com is the address. And you can check out Olivia's Book Club on Facebook or find us on Instagram. Hello, Bookstagrammers. At olivias.bookclub, and Margaret is at Overbooked and Overdue. Make sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends. You can find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Amazon Music.
This is Olivia's Book Club, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.